Welcome to episode 2 of Fourth and Inches with your favorite boys. I'm Nate.
I'm Cree.
And I'm Jordan.
So this past weekend was quite an eventful one, full of lots of great college football, lots of great NFL football. How was your guys' weekend?
Did nothing but chill with the boys and watch sports. Basically what I do every weekend, so really can't complain at all. What about you, Jordan?
Pretty uneventful weekend for me. Couldn't really go out and see many people. Had to bear down and just work on a few projects. Pretty eventful thing happened. I was walking to my apartment and a squirrel started chasing a bird. So yeah, there was a bird that was running away from a squirrel. I was confused as to why it wasn't flying away from the squirrel because, you know, birds have wings. But other than that, I saw a little chase for a few seconds there, and that was pretty eventful. I didn't know if I should step in or just kind of mediate, and I decided it was best to just kind of back off and just let it happen.
That's a dangerous duo there. I don't think you want to step in between those two ever, really.
I want to pump the brakes here on this weekend fiasco for a second. There are conflicting reports that Cray actually had a female fly in from out of state. Christian, there are many rumors circulating this situation. The viewers would like to know, is this true?
Well, Nate, I can confirm that this is true. I had, one of the honeys back home flown out to Phoenix just for the weekend. So when I said earlier that I was hanging with the boys, there was some estrogen in the room, but, we kind of just kept it to football and wings and sports. So, kind of had the female energy in the room, but still kept it focused on what really matters.
Fair enough. You got to respect it.
100%.
In other news, probably the biggest news, bigger than any game we'll talk about today, is FIFA 17 arrives in stores September 26th. That'll be next Monday. As a FIFA enthusiast, I am very excited for this game. Looks like they've made some significant improvements, and I can't wait to play. What about you guys?
Well, yeah, talked earlier about the one female who flew out. That won't be happening for about maybe 3 or 4 months because I'll just be posted on the couch with Nate and Jordan playing FIFA 17 nonstop. I'm super stoked for this game. We've been rolling on 16 for a while, had some intense matchups, but it looks like the gameplay is so sick in this new game. You can see all the tattoos on the players, which I think is pretty cool, and I'm just stoked to get after it with my boys.
Yeah, one of the things I just love about FIFA this time of year is that I don't have to buy it because usually Nate buys it. So it's kind of like free playing in the room. I get to play whenever I want. And I'm more of a casual FIFA goer. I don't take it as seriously as these guys. So really big into the slide tackles. I'm going to get as many red cards as I can. Going to take as many long shots as I can. We're just a very flashy player, and we're just going to go for the highlight plays.
Week 2. Lots of big storylines. Because it's the NFL and there's big storylines every week.
Yes.
So we'll get right to the madness. First game on the slate of the morning. Actually, no, it wasn't morning. It was Thursday night. It was the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. Big storyline going into this one. Actually, coming out of this one. Did it happen after or before? After the game?
I believe it was after.
Yes.
Yeah,
after the Bills lost to the Jets by a score. What was the score?
37-31.
By a score of 37-31.
So that's a 6-point margin of victory.
Forte went off, by the way. 3 tutties. Anyways.
Not a math guy, but that's by a 6
The Bills fired their offensive coordinator, despite putting up 31 points, fired their OC, Greg Roman, and immediately hired running backs coach Anthony Flynn. I don't really understand this move. What do you guys think?
Well, just looking at it from this one game where they put up 31 points, it might be kind of random that they did this. But, last week against Baltimore, they only put up 7 points against a defense that, is pretty middle of the road. So I kind of understand. Maybe they just want, a fresh look on their offense. Obviously, Rex and Rob Ryan, both just real football dudes. Definitely both defensive-minded coaches. So it's possible that they just didn't really like the direction that the offense was going in. Thought they'd just get a fresh take on it with, firing their man Greg Roman. I think he's been there for a few years now. So maybe Rex just doesn't like the old regime and wants to bring in this new guy.
Yeah, I'm also a little bit confused onto why this happened when it happened, because it's coming off a game where they scored 31 points. It's kind of like you're just blaming someone on with a problem that didn't really have anything to do with the problem. It's kind of like when mom buys you that new car and you're really excited. You're like, hey, Helen Keller, come and drive my car for me. I don't feel like driving. And she gets into an accident and you're like, Mom, why would you buy me that car? It just doesn't really make much sense. You're just kind of blaming the wrong person.
No correlation.
Also, side note, Helen Keller, I still don't believe that she was blind and deaf. There is no proof that she was actually blind and deaf. I'm just going to say
Now that is a hot take.
I'm just going to say, objectively speaking.
Little conspiracy theory here from our man Jordan.
I personally think this move is more of a Rex Ryan ego thing than anything else. I think he's one of the most selfish coaches in the league. He always seems to need or want the attention on him. I don't get it. I mean, it doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, his defense was more the issue than the offense, and we know he runs the defense. But I think it was more of a desperation move by Rex than anything else. Moving on, we have San Francisco at Carolina. This game was surprisingly close at points, up until the third quarter. It was a pretty close game, and then the Panthers started to pull away offensively. They had a nice showing. Carolina ended up winning this one 46-27. What are the big takeaways from this?
This was just a classic Chip Kelly game from the get-go. Lots of defense being played, just kind of throwback version of the game to what it used to be, to its glory days. But on a more serious note, it's a very big win for the Panthers coming off a close loss to Denver. It's good to see Cam Newton kind of get back into his MVP form that he was last year. And it's also showing that Kelvin Benjamin is definitely here to stay. He definitely missed him last year. Just another go-to target for Cam.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what you just said, Jordan. Kelvin Benjamin looks great coming off that ACL. He looks totally dominant. Had 2 touchdowns in this game. So, and also that little dance move, the little Kamehameha he's doing,
Yeah.
kind of starting to dig that a little bit. I mean, I might be throwing that down at the Nugget party later, so, be on the look for that. But no, Kelvin Benjamin's back. The 49ers did hang around a little bit in this game, which was, good to see if you're a Niners fan. But, Blaine Gabbert looks like he might be serviceable for the 49ers this year. Might not be, as bad as we thought.
Banking off that, yes, I would agree that Kelvin Benjamin looks very good. He won Offensive Rookie in the Year, what was it, 2014, I believe?
13, man.
2013?
Yeah.
Well, no, because he sat a year, he was a rookie, then he got hurt, and then he came back. It was 2016.
Very possible. 2014.
Anyways, whatever year it was. He does look to be returning to form. He's going to be Cam Newton's top target this year, him and Greg Olsen. He actually had 108 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, and he's just a big body. I mean, the dude is 6'5". You don't really see that often at the receiver position. And so with him as such a big target, he's a big threat in the red zone. Not only the red zone, but really all over the field. The next game on the slate here is Baltimore at Cleveland.
A real barn burner, this one.
A real barn burner.
Just could not keep my eyes off the TV during this game.
A real fan-loving football game that everyone cares about.
You had intrigue, drama, quarterback play, more drama. What else do you want from a football game?
The Browns gave up a 20-point lead. We said it last week when the Chargers did it. There's only a few teams in football that can give up leads like that. Mm-hmm. Browns definitely one of them. Chargers another one, and
maybe the Bears. I could see the Bears. I don't think the Bears can get out to a 20-point lead. Then
yeah,
you gotta be capable of getting out to a 20-point lead. Okay, yeah.
You have to have the boys to come out strong, but then also just the horrible coaching and just lack of motivation to actually give up a lead like that. So the Browns put it all together and lost. And the Ravens look pretty good, 2-0 coming out this year. So
a very quiet 2-0.
Yeah, they might be surprising.
Yeah, this just plays on the strength of the AFC North. Me and Craig were talking about this earlier. Easily one of the best divisions in football, if not the best. Ravens off to a hot start, 2-0. They were down 20, came all the way back. It's pretty impressive. Joe Flacco, don't think anyone really considers him elite, but a solid quarterback. One bright spot for the Browns, Isaiah Crowell, 18 carries, 133 yards and a score, and he ripped off a very nice 85-yard run. So that is one bright spot for the offense, as well as Corey Coleman with 104 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Those are 2 guys that the Browns can actually lean on in the future. If they could just find a quarterback, they might win 5 games. But without one, they'll win 1-2.
And they like have a specific quarterback they're looking for. Like in the offseason, they see Carson Wentz. They're like, no, that guy will not fit our system, our complex system. We're going to go out and get a guy like RG3, and that's going to be the type of guy that can lead us to this 0-2 start, which we're currently at. So you just kind of got to go, whenever you just look at the decision making from the Browns front office.
And now Cody Kessler, the former USC quarterback, is going to start this Week 3 game for him. So that'll be interesting to
So we've got
throw him in the fire.
3 games, 3 starting quarterbacks for the Browns.
I mean, they should just keep shuttling them in and
That's
see
tough to do.
which of the 16 quarterbacks works. And
Maybe you do like this multi-quarterback system where you have one play home games, and then you have the other one who's expendable. So you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to Seattle this week. You can go and take a bunch of hits. You can play that game. I don't need you that much. I'm still kind of convinced that's what Jeff Fisher was doing in LA. He keeps on saying he wants to put Goff in the best position to succeed. So he goes, hey, Case Keenum, you mind playing against San Francisco and just taking some shots from Navarro Bowman? And then, hey, Case Keenum, that worked really well week 1. Go and play Seattle, which it actually worked. They didn't really score an offensive touchdown, but still.
just got to get it how you live.
Yep.
Moving on, we had the Tennessee Titans at the Detroit Lions. Another absolute barn burner. Final score, Tennessee 16, Detroit 15. The Lions were this close to making Lions fans very happy, which hasn't been the case in a very long time, probably back to Barry Sanders days. But, of course, couldn't quite get it done. Blew a late lead with about a minute to go. Mariota threw a touchdown pass to Delaney Walker to put the Titans up 1. Stafford had a chance, drove down the middle of the field, and, of course, did what Stafford does, threw a late-game pick. So the Lions took another L. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, tough for the Lions to win games these days. Stafford really just chucks the ball around. He puts up some gaudy pass numbers, but also throws a lot of picks. Puts himself into trouble like that. So good to see Mariota get a win because I'm a fan of him. Delaney Walker's a beast, and DeMarco Murray looked good for the second week in a row. So it's good to see him working out well in that Tennessee offense. So exciting for Tennessee.
Yeah, I just don't really think there's much else to say about these two teams. They're both fairly boring teams now, and and it wasn't a boring game, but it's just one of those games where it's like, you'd see 15-16, you'd be like, who's playing? Oh, it's just the Lions and the Titans. You're like, okay, let's just go and change the channel. So I think we're going to change the channel on this topic and just keep on chugging along.
Another one you're going to want to change the channel to pretty quickly. Kansas City at Houston. Brock Osweiler, not impressed. He had 268 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks. But, I mean, he was paid $72 million. I think everyone expected this. No one really thought he would be a stud. Other side of the ball, Alex Smith, 20 for 37, 186 yards, no touchdowns. Yikes.
That's a classic Smith stat line. What do you have, like 20 rushing yards, something like that? Just a classic Smith stat line.
Just a battle of the game managers here. One end you got Brock Osweiler, just hoping that Texans D can do what they do, cause enough turnovers that they can get a win. And then Alex Smith, the game manager of all game managers, just hoping his side can do the same. But I think the Texans forced like 3 fumbles early in this game, and they were all recovered by the Chiefs. So they couldn't quite get those turnovers, but then later in the game they ended up getting a few, and the Texans are 2-0, so that's a nice little start in that AFC South division, which is usually pretty weak. So 2-0 looks good for the Texans. Looks like they might be able to nag a playoff spot.
Yeah, the Chiefs did not score an offensive touchdown. That's all I have to say.
And moving on here, We've got New England and Miami. This was it was a blowout at one point, and then it got kind of close towards the end. But then, the Patriots started winning as we all expected. Christian, what do we got for this one?
The Pats, as my team, I got to just put it out there. They're not one of those teams that, gives up 20, 24-point leads. So they were up 24-0 at one point.
They're not in that kind of Browns-Chargers group that likes to give up big leads.
They're just not in that bracket. Belichick knows how to manage the game and come out with a W. Garoppolo was playing out of his mind to start this game off. I was sitting here, with the boys and one female, and I was just loving it because he threw 3 touchdowns in the first half and had, over 200 yards. And he just looked like he was going to be a stud the whole way through. And then Kiko Alonso comes in and just, devastates my hopes and dreams. Fell super hard on that right shoulder. So don't know if he's going to play against the Texans in just a few days. But it was encouraging to see him look so good. And then Jacoby Brissett came in and just kind of, managed it, kept the lead. So I was very happy to get a win and escape alive, and we're on to Houston now.
So I mean the Pats have looked really good with Garoppolo. So let's take a look at Brady. So it looks like the Pats can definitely win without Brady. And if we just take a look at Brady's legacy, do you think it's safe to say that Tom Brady is just a product of the system and maybe he's not that good after all? It's just been fooling us for all these years?
Well, Jordan, I think that's probably the most ridiculous thing I've heard on this day.
Yep, I'm just sending out some feelers, just kind of.
Of course, just feeling it out. No way. I do not think Tom Brady's just a product of the system. Bill Belichick is a defensive-minded coach, so he doesn't really have much impact on the offensive system. That's more with the offensive coordinators, starting out with Charlie Weiss early in Brady's career, and then he had Bill O'Brien, who's now the Texans head coach, as his offensive coordinator in New England. And then McDaniels, who's been doing it for a while now. But, rotating coordinators, rotating schemes, rotating players. And most of those players just have been, nobodies. If you look at his receiving core over the years, the quality of the running backs that he's had over the years, it's just been kind of a mill of average at best players. And he makes them look like superstars. With the exception of Randy Moss, the year when they went 16-0, he hasn't really had that strong of a supporting cast. Granted, he's had a few really, really good defenses, but on the offensive side of the ball, it's always been Brady and company. So for that reason, I think, he's one of the best ever in his own right.
So what are your guys' opinions on the reports that the Patriots are kind of encouraging Garoppolo to play with this shoulder injury he has? What do you guys think about that?
Is that an actual report?
Yeah, it
100%.
actually came out today. It said that I think Garoppolo is like a sprained AC joint, which is in your shoulder. I'm no doctor, but that's just me having a lot of knowledge on things. And the Patriots are encouraging him to play kind of through this injury.
Yeah, the report said that the Pats were saying something along the lines of, hey, Garoppolo, Brady played with an injury like this before, so step up, brother.
I don't ever think there's been a time in Tom Brady's career where he wasn't, kind of hurt. He definitely always had nagging shoulder injuries.
Right.
He probably went, 70% of the games he's played in his career, he's, gone into the week questionable.
I mean, you can just look at Brady's career as a whole as Michael Jordan's flu game, but over a whole career. He just battles through it. He's just absolute warrior on the field. So, I mean, with the exception of the 1 year where he tore his ACL, he's just been an Iron Man. And I think the Patriots are saying, hey, Garoppolo, if you ever want to take the reins from Brady, might as well start showing us that you got some cojones and play through the shoulder injury.
I disagree. I don't think he should play. I don't understand the concept behind that, if this is actually true that the Patriots want him to play. I think Jimmy G is the truth. He's looked very good in his first 2 games, especially against that Arizona defense. That was really impressive. Miami, they have a good pass rush, but not the best defense. Anyways, obviously with Tom Brady coming back, the Patriots will be even more dangerous. However, I think Pats fans can rest easy knowing that once Brady does retire, which is most likely within the next 2 years, that Garoppolo, they'll be fine with Garoppolo because he's been outstanding. I don't think you should play this week. Let Jacoby Brissett play. You'll probably still win because you're a very good team. Gronk might be coming back. I don't really see the point in risking further injury to most likely the future franchise quarterback, but hey, I guess we will see. Moving on, this game was the weirdest game I've seen in a long time. New Orleans at New York, the G-Men. The final score was 16-13 Giants. There was not an offensive touchdown in the first half. I believe the first touchdown from the game was a blocked field goal by the Giants right before halftime. I just don't understand. This game was supposed to be a shootout. I started Brandon Cooks in fantasy, and nothing happened. What gives?
Well, Nate, first of all, I feel your pain because this week I was given the choice between starting Willie Snead or Eric Decker. And, we know what Eric Decker did on Thursday night, went off for like 18 points. I ended up starting Snead, thought I would be clever and switch it up because, this big game against the Giants, I thought he would go off, and ended up giving me a subpar performance. So definitely a weird one, especially after last year's matchup between these two same teams that, was 52-49 or something along those lines. The defenses somehow found a way to stop these two explosive offenses and turned out to just be kind of a dud of a game. So disappointed.
Definitely just a weird one in general. I mean, we were all expecting a big offensive performance, and that's what everyone was telling us to this point. It kind of felt like the game was a sham. I kind of feel lied to and cheated. It was kind of like when you were little. I know you guys wouldn't experience this being from California.
I want my money back, Matthew Berry.
As do I, but it would be like when you were little living on the East Coast. You'd just be in middle school. You'd hear these reports, it's going to snow a lot, no school tomorrow. And then you'd wake up and there would be like no snowflakes on the ground, and you would just like go through the whole day really disappointed.
Yeah, for us it would be like, if you look outside, the mountain's going to burn a lot, so don't go near the fire.
Yeah, California fires, no joke.
Yep, fire, snow, they're all in the same. Let's just bunch those in the group of
I don't
teams
know if
that
that's
like
true.
to
Natural weather
like
causes.
teams that like to give up 20 points. They're in the same group like there.
Moving on, we had the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another weird one. Supposed to be a shootout, much like the Giants Saints. Was not. Steelers ended up taking this one 24-16 to improve 2-0. Aside from the game, Big Ben, just a gritty player, not the best stat line, but he did end up with 3 touchdowns. Andy Dalton had 54 attempts. What? And he only threw 1 touchdown? The Red Rocket is an interesting man. Anyways, though, what I do want to talk about is the Steelers are number 1 in a lot of analysts' current NFL power rankings, and I was just wondering if you guys agree with the high rating at this point in the season.
Well, I think they should be high. I don't know if I know about number 1, just because watching the Patriots right now, their defense looks really, really good, and then we know what their offense can do once Brady's back. So I think they're my, number 1 contender from that standpoint for the Super Bowl. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, so far they look good. They won the divisional game against the Bengals. That's very important. And Antonio Brown kind of shut down in this game. He only had 39 yards receiving on only 4 catches. So looks like the Bengals kind of silenced him a little bit, which is big if you want to even have a chance of beating the Steelers.
Some might say Antonio Brown might be a little overrated. What would you guys say to those rumors that I'm hearing from around the league?
I don't think that's a rumor anywhere.
Yeah, where are these sources, Jordan?
Sources that need to remain anonymous.
Antonio Brown is hands down the best receiver in the league, and it's not close.
And Brandon Marshall is probably going to owe him a Porsche by the end of the year. So,
Yes.
Sorry, B. Marsh. But D'Angelo Williams balled out in this game, as he tends to do.
He's good.
Yeah, when he's good at football.
That's
fair to say.
Good analysis.
And, he's filling in right now for Le'Veon Bell, who may be the best running back in the game, to go along with Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the game. So,
Reportedly the best receiver. We still have to see.
We're still checking our facts on that. But, it's definitely an explosive offense. I mean, if they had Martavis Bryant, that would be a whole different story because he puts a whole nother deep threat into that offense. But I don't, entirely trust that defense. But so far they've looked really good this season, only giving up 16 points in each of their first 2 games. So we'll see.
Probably in contention for the most entertaining game of the week, if not the most entertaining game of the week. And I wish it wasn't because I think, first of all, we're talking about Dallas at Washington. My Cowboys have a knack for putting themselves in bad situations and having every game be close, even though it probably shouldn't be. Had the Cowboys converted on more red zone opportunities, this game could have been won easily by 2 touchdowns, but also the other way because Washington missed a couple home run plays that could have broken the game open. Main storyline here, Kirk Cousins throws a terrible interception with about 9 minutes in the fourth quarter, leading to an Alfred Morris touchdown that puts the Cowboys up 4, and their defense was able to somehow get a stop. I was very surprised by that. Get a stop and win the game. Dak Prescott looked good. He looked good in this one. Great poise for a rookie. What'd you guys think of the game overall?
I mean, yeah, Dallas jumped out to an early 10-0 lead. They looked really good, and then as the game went on, like I said last week, red zone opportunities are huge to try to convert not only into field goals but into touchdowns when you can. So Dak Prescott's young. He'll obviously get better at doing that and whatnot. So, I mean, big division game, just like last week. The Cowboys couldn't win it last week, so very good that they ended up winning this one. Also, a little interesting note, Terrence Williams, no targets in this game after the little mishap he had on the sideline last game. So maybe a little bit of a message from the OC and Dak Prescott not looking his way this game.
Kind of does make you think. That is very interesting. I didn't even think to look at that. But other than that, this was a great game. Kirk Cousins picked up right from where he left off last year. Looks like he's going to build on that 70% completion percentage season that he had just a season ago. And other than that, Cowboys get a big win. I think if they fall to 0-2, it's definitely not looking good for them. And then we have the Washington team. We're not allowed to say the R word because it's offensive to many. So, but they fall to 0-2, which is very. I know they had high hopes. Pretty much kept the same team as last year that won the division plus Josh Norman. So they definitely had high hopes coming into the season. But still, and NFC East is always going to be an intriguing one. That's for sure.
Yeah, going from being probably the worst division in football last year, so far it's off to a very interesting start. It'll probably go down to the wire as it did last year. Just some quick numbers. Prescott's official total was 292 yards in the air. Still has not thrown a touchdown. When the Cowboys have scored, it's been on the ground. So they did improve a little bit in the red zone this week. I would like to obviously see Dak get comfortable even more so and throw a couple touchdowns. I think that'd be good for his confidence. But he did run one in, so, I mean, that's got to feel good. Another big story for me was Dez Bryant. 7 receptions, 102 yards. I said last week, throw the ball to one of the best receivers in the entire NFL and good things happen. And as we see here, he averaged 14.6 yards a catch. I mean, the dude is a freak. If you throw him the ball, good things will happen. He is a physical specimen, and when he gets involved in the offense, he's tough to stop. Kirk Cousins on the other side of the ball, 364 yards, 1 touchdown. Obviously, that terrible interception.
He's good at football, folks. He's good.
Another surprising one, it looks like Cole Beasley is one of Dak's favorite targets. He converted a couple crucial long third downs, and he ended up with 75 yards receiving. Moving on, this game, not much to say. Tampa Bay, Arizona, 5 turnovers from Tampa Bay, all 5 attributed to Jameis Winston, 4 picks and a lost fumble. If you had the Cardinals defense, you were doing the hokey pokey because what a day by them. I think they had 2 pick sixes, if I recall correctly. Tampa Bay looked dominated from start to finish. I think the funniest part about this is Bruce Arians was not happy after the game. He said his offense should have put up more points. That's a football guy move.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the Cardinals, it was very important for them to bounce back after that loss to New England last week. So Definitely showed that, they took a loss, but they're still a big contender in the NFC, and just totally dominated the Buccaneers. Young quarterback going up against that defense. You can't expect a young quarterback to go up against the Arizona Cardinals defense and win. Oh, wait. Oh, you can. Only if he's a Patriot.
He's in a great system. A great system.
100%. All about the system. But no, yeah, the Cardinals defense showed what they're made of in this game. Palmer played great, and Larry Fitzgerald caught another touchdown, showing that, only gets better with age. So great game for the Cards.
Yep, just going to echo what everyone else said. It was a big win for the Cardinals. They were definitely angry from last week with their loss to the Patriots, a game they had no business in losing. And definitely a rough one for Jameis Winston, who impressed pretty much everyone with his 4-touchdown performance in Week 1. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back for sure.
Yeah, echo it with the Winston thing. I'm really curious to see how he responds to this. Seattle at the LA Rams.
Another barn burner.
The third barn burner of the week, folks. I don't know how many barn burners we're capable of handling.
Definitely just shows that the league is moving to a more offensive game. Definitely.
Final score for those of you who didn't see, 9-3. LA has now played 2 complete games and failed to score a touchdown both times. However, on the last show, I did say the Rams might not win a game. So I would have to revoke that statement because they are now 1-1. And I would also have to issue a personal apology to my good friend Dante DeFranzo, because he is a big Rams fan, and they did win a game. It is unfortunate, but they did win a game. So Dante, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less worried about the Rams, although I am from the LA area, so good to see them get a W. But I mean, a little concerned if I'm a Seahawks fan, which I'm obviously not. But just from the standpoint that played the Dolphins last week, we're down most of that game. And didn't score an offensive touchdown until very late in the game, where they ended up taking the lead, and then didn't score any offensive touchdowns in this game, ended up losing 9-3. So, I mean, their defense is playing tough, only held Miami to 10 points and LA to 9 points, but, I mean, that offense, I don't know what's going on. Russell Wilson just looks like a scared little leprechaun back there, so it's going to be tough for them to win games if they can't get it going on the offensive side. They've got a pretty tough schedule, being in the same division as Arizona, and they always seem to find ways to lose games to the Rams, and even a little bit to the 49ers when they have those divisional matchups. So kind of scared for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, just what I've seen from Russell Wilson so far in this short season has been nothing but pathetic. I mean, we can't really ignore the elephant in the room. I mean, Russell had a pretty eventful offseason. I know that he's a very religious guy, and he got married over summer. And
Congrats on the sex, Russell.
He did consummate his love with Sierra. So do you think that has had an effect on his play? Is that a yes?
I mean, you look at it from a strictly fact-based standpoint. Went to 2 Super Bowls before having sex, and if
you look at the numbers,
only 1 offensive touchdown in 2 games after.
Pre and post consummation of their love.
It looks like there might be a correlation, at least for Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. Abstinence during the season is what I would suggest, and then.
So would you suggest that for all players?
I mean, I don't know, because, Brady and Giselle have been happy together for years, and he seems to be getting it done on and off the field. So.
Just really quick, you can't tell my man Gronk to stay celibate throughout the season. I mean, that man just thrives on the party atmosphere.
Well, he just has a lot of testosterone. I think Russell Wilson has, the below average. I don't know how much testosterone
low T? Is he rocking low T?
He might be rocking low T.
I mean, Russ, when you have that low of, competitive energy, you can't really afford to give it away in any type of intimate situation with your newlywed wife. You got to keep it all on the field. So for guys like Gronk that have an excess, they're able to party hard and do what they do and still play football. But Russell Wilson, you got to just, keep all that energy on the field and, maybe score a few more touchdowns next week.
So it looks like the whole Sierra thing isn't really working out for him. So I pose a question for you guys next. What do you think comes first? Russell Wilson touchdown pass or a divorce from his wife, Sierra? We're going to open that up to the room.
I gotta think it's a touchdown pass.
Okay, so we have 1 for touchdown,
Make it 2 for touchdown.
2 for touchdown.
But my father always told me, while I was playing football growing up, that women are dream killers. So, having a girl around,
That should be a bumper sticker.
100%. Having a girl around nagging at you, telling you, oh, like, I want this or it's just not healthy for a guy that needs to be in a competitive mindset and focused on winning football games. So maybe Sierra just needs to be a little bit less needy.
Maybe say, hey, Sierra, why don't you just think about someone else beside yourself for one time in your
a
life?
little bit selfish on Sierra's part. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that. And we know what she did to Future, so kind of tore him apart. So now that she's with Russ, scary topic to see what she's gonna do to this guy.
Moving on. Colts, Broncos. Final score 34-20, Denver. Simeon, nothing special. Apparently Andrew Luck isn't either, because Simeon had more yards than him. 266 to Andrew Luck's 197. No stats really jump out at you. Not a lot of offense played in this game. Demaryius Thomas did have 90 yards receiving, but this game just continues to prove how dominant this Broncos defense really is. Von Miller with a strip sack at the end that they scooped and scored to the house late in the fourth quarter when the Colts were trying to come back. This Broncos D is for real. This Colts team is just not good.
Yeah, watching this Broncos defense is absolutely nuts. They had the fumble that they returned to the house, and then they also had an Aqib Talib interception return. And Von Miller is just an absolute animal. He was all over Andrew Luck, who I like to refer to as Andrew Suck.
That is clever.
I think he's a little bit overhyped. Came into the league as an early draft pick and had a few good years, taking them into the playoffs. But I just think he turns the ball over far too much. But, against the Broncos defense, tough not to. They're just impregnable and showed it again this week that, they're the top defense in the league. Von Miller is an absolute beast. And Colts dropped to 0-2, so that's definitely trouble if they're trying to win that AFC South division, seeing that the Texans are 2-0.
Definitely. I think my 2 main takeaways for this game will first start off that Von Miller is by far the best defensive player in the NFL. You just see that explosion off the D-line. I can't remember the last time a defensive end has been as dominant as Von Miller. I don't know. Can you guys think of someone? I just
LT.
Yeah, no. I think it's just like Von Miller's up here, and then you have like a bunch of scrubs, just a bunch of scrubs. So yeah, Von Miller's the best, and Andrew Luck might be a little bit of a bust.
Huh.
Might be a little bit of a bust. I just don't know. I haven't really seen much from him lately, but definitely maybe overhyped.
Yeah, if I'm a Colts fan, I'm a little worried. Obviously, last year, I'll discount for him because of numerous injury problems, but not off to a good start this year. First couple years of his career, he was really good, so we'll see how he responds to that. Moving on, we had the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Oakland Raiders. Final score of 35-28 in favor of the Dirty Birds. This game was actually pretty exciting. Matt Ryan, 396 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's having a hot start to the season, that's for sure. Derek Carr on the other side of the ball, also an impressive day. Almost 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. A lot of good receiving talent in this game. What do we think?
Yeah, I thought this was kind of a weird game. First of all, it was played on a football field that doubles as a baseball field. So that's all.
Something you see. I guess we do see it most.
That's always weird. But also just, they had the tip pass near the goal line that could have easily been an interception, but the Falcons ended up catching for a touchdown. It was just kind of tipped in the air, and then Del Rio went for it on 4th down a few times, just showing that
he's got like a reputation to uphold now.
He's just kind of embracing the whole go-getter attitude. Now I think it was 4th and goal from like the 2-yard line, and he went for it early in the game and got it with Crabtree, again, ironically, on the touchdown. So, I mean, Del Rio's showing his guys that he's willing to put it all on the line to win. In the end, just a few plays didn't go the Raiders' way, and they weren't able to win the game. But, yeah, Matt Ryan coming out to a hot start. He's got that dude number 11 to throw to, which always helps to have a beast like that on your squad. So, Falcons look good, but just tough for the Raiders to lose that way. It just seemed like, if a few plays didn't just kind of fluke out for them, they could have came out with a win.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I was impressed with what I saw with the Raiders. I think the Falcons always just kind of like fool us with how good they actually are. I've never been a big proponent for the Falcons. I just think there's a lot that they leave to be desired, so to say. But definitely it was a great game to watch. Overall, I was impressed with Matt Ryan, impressed with Derek Carr. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams do later on in the year.
Yeah, 2 impressive offensive performances, but for a team that spent a lot of money on defense in the offseason, the Raiders have been awful. They've given up a lot of points in their first 2 games, which is interesting, especially through the air, because they got Reggie Nelson and Sean Smith, 2 guys that have been known to cover the pass pretty well over their careers. So I'm sure they will look to tighten up their defense in the coming weeks. This game was very weird. Jacksonville at San Diego. San Diego won 38-14. That is not a typo. 38 points, and Jacksonville only hung 14. I'm just lost for words at this one. I mean, Jacksonville is supposed to be dynamite. Bortles, Robinson, Hearns, Yeldon, and Ivory in the backfield. I don't understand.
Definitely, I think the Chargers kind of strayed away from their game plan last week. And instead of getting out to a big lead and giving it up, they got out to a big lead and they held on to it. Another big storyline for this game, Danny Woodhead goes down, torn ACL, out for the year. This is just a little weird to me. As someone who's lived their life a full 19 years and still has 2 fully functioning ACLs, I just think that Woodhead kind of needs to take care of himself a little bit more. That's what OTAs and training camp are for. He's got to get into the best shape that you can be, and that just shows a little laziness on Woodhead's part. So I think his teammates should be very angry with him at this point.
I mean, yeah, ACL maintenance is kind of at an all-time low in the NFL. We're seeing a lot of guys go down with
Just a lot of guys not staying in the best of shape that they can be, and it's showing with all these ACLs.
And it's a shame, because fantasy teams everywhere are suffering. But, yeah, the Jags, I really believed in them coming into this year. And then, the Packers, that's a tough game. It's all right to take a loss there. But going against the San Diego Chargers is a little different. Not a storied franchise like the Packers. And I really thought they'd be able to come out with a win in this game. But, I mean, Bortles has kind of underperformed so far. He threw the ball 50 times in this game. So no real rush attack being shown for the Jaguars. Bortles was actually their leading rusher as well with 34 yards. So, that's not good. But, I mean, the Chargers came out explosive. Rivers threw for 4 touchdowns. Which is always good. So, I mean, I don't think the Chargers are any good, but I think they kind of stole one from the Jags this week. And, I mean, hopefully the Jaguars can pick it up because, they could win that division if they really, pick it up and start playing to their level. But right now they just don't look like the team I thought they were.
As someone who tore my ACL in high school, I feel for you, Woodhead. It'll be okay.
Probably due to a lack of preseason preparation on your part. So let's just say you weren't in the best of shape when that happened.
I'll have to vehemently disagree with that statement.
Okay, well, tomato.
Preposterous. Anyways, yeah, I think this is my fault for believing in the Jacksonville Jaguars in any capacity because they're bad. They've been bad. Okay, cool, they got good players now, but somehow they're still bad. So I'm just going to go back to the old ways of believing the Jaguars are bad. And then maybe one year they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll turn it around and win 14 in a row. You never know. But not looking good out of the gate for Jacksonville, that's for sure. The nightcap, Green Bay at Minnesota, the debut of Sammy Sleeves. I mean, on paper, Green Bay was supposed to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns in my mind.
Maybe even 3.
Maybe even 3.
On a good day.
And Minnesota won 17-14. The Packers look lost offensively. Sam Bradford actually looked kind of good, which was surprising for most.
Not for most. I think we all know his capability on the field.
Stephon Diggs, great performance. I believe he had over 100 yards receiving.
He had like 160 yards receiving, something wild like that.
Let's pull it up. Here we go.
Can I get a stat check?
Stephon Diggs, 9 receptions. Oh, wow, almost 200 yards. He had 182 yards with a touchdown. Bradford, 286 with 2 touchdowns. But yeah, a big storyline. Green Bay looks lost offensively with supposedly the best quarterback in the league. What's going on?
I think it's starting to look like Rodgers might be a little bit of a bust at this point.
Jordan always coming with the hot takes.
I just call it like I see it.
I mean, coming into this game, I actually thought it was going to be close. I don't know if I had the Vikings winning it, but that Vikings defense is for real. Harrison Smith, Anthony Barr, Kendricks, that D-line, they definitely go hard. And then Sam Bradford just outplaying Aaron Rodgers. I mean, just shows you that maybe he hasn't been in the right system in previous years, and now maybe he's found a fit in the Vikes. Also had, that injury to his hand. I don't know he had like a cut or something on his hand.
Yeah, it was like a cut with no blood. I was like weird. I didn't see any blood, but there was a cut.
I don't think God's bleeds, so
yeah, maybe there's no
possibly.
blood in there. Is it safe to say that Sam Bradford is a genetically modified robot made by Roger Goodell to come and destroy the Packers?
Conspiracy. But I mean, showed that he's an Iron Man playing through the injury. And then obviously Adrian Peterson going down is a huge concern for the Vikings. I don't know if the extent of that injury is known yet.
I believe he's out for a month.
Out for a month.
Another guy who didn't take care of himself in the preseason. These knees.
I think that was an Achilles.
No, it was a knee.
A knee? Oh, wow. So, I mean,
lack of preparation on AP's part.
Take care of your knees, boys and girls. But, yeah, that's going to be tough for the Vikings. Obviously, they're happy to be 2-0, but going forward, Stephon Diggs stepped up big in this game. He's going to have to keep doing that if they want to win. But huge division win against the Packers, who I assume they'll be competing with down the road for the division title.
Jordan, you want to lead off this next one?
Ooh, all right. We've got Monday Night Football. We've got Eagles versus the Bears. I want to say, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I called this one from the get-go. Just a blowout win for the Eagles. They won 29-14. The Bears didn't really put up much of a fight. My man Jay Cutler went down. He hurt his throwing hand. Those are all the real storylines. But I think the main takeaway from this game is that Carson Wentz is definitely here to stay.
Wentz wagon!
Yeah, hop on the Wentz wagon. It's heating up. But anyways, I just look at it, and you look at Wentz, and you look at Goff, and you're like, I just don't understand how anyone would think Goff would be better than Wentz. I mean, if you just look at it, he's huge, he's got a cannon, he's a smart guy. I mean, he's from North Dakota. See, I don't really know what else there is to do in North Dakota besides, like, throw footballs and, like, graze cow pastures. I feel like Wentz's mom was the type of mom to be like, hey, Carson, you're not allowed to play football unless you're, like, done your work. So he would go out on the farm and then like chop a bunch of trees, and then afterward he would just throw footballs at tree stumps for practice, or maybe like release the chickens as target practice and just chuck footballs at them. So he's been working since he's been a little guy. But anyways, he looks great. The Eagles defense looks great. Next week they have to take on the Steelers, which will be an interesting test to say the least. Battle of the Pennsylvania teams. So I don't know what you guys gotta.
I mean, yeah, I imagine Wentz is a real Paul Bunyan in his childhood, just chopping trees, throwing footballs.
At tree stumps.
Kind of an all-American hero, if you ask me. But, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are 2-0 in a division that usually down the stretch is kind of short on wins. So, to be 2-0 in that NFC East is huge. Jump out to an early lead. And, I mean, the Bears aren't much to have to contend with, but they won a game that they should have won here, so it's big for them. And I don't know, maybe they'll even be able to pull off an upset against the Steelers if they, can find a little defense to play.
As a Cowboys fan, it does pain me to say that Wentz indeed does look good. You wouldn't be able to tell looking by just the stats, 190 for 1 touchdown, but watching the game, I mean, he's very composed. He's a big dude, takes up a lot of space, can see over the defense, was delivering some on-time and accurate balls all night. Couple big drops. Was it by Aguilar?
He had one by Aguilar.
And one by Matthews, I believe.
Matthews, yeah.
Took away at least one touchdown, maybe two.
I just think his play goes like beyond the stats. If you just look at it,
No, yeah, I would.
Like there's not many rookies that just know what they're doing. I mean, almost every play he's either audibling or changing the protection. He's just a smart guy, and that's what the Eagles have kind of been preaching since they drafted him.
Yeah, I think the Eagles definitely found a good one. I think he'll find some success in this league. Eagles need to figure out their ground game, though. It looks like their leading rusher was Darren Sproles with 40 yards.
I didn't really think they attacked the ground that much because I think that the Chicago secondary is that bad. I think they ended up having 2 rushing touchdowns because those came in the red zone. But it looked like from the get-go their plan was to just kind of dink and dunk them. There were a lot of like short slant routes and curl routes that they were running. So a lot of like 8 or 9 yard passes, and I think they were kind of using that as the run to open up the play action and the deep balls down the middle. So I think that was kind of the game plan going in, but it'll be interesting to see what they do next week against the Steelers.
On the other side of the ball, we have Jay Cutler, who is just pathetic.
I've been defending this guy for 3 years now, and it's just getting harder and harder to defend him. I mean, I just don't really think he cares anymore. He's not really much of a leader or ever really has been. He's got talent. Like, no one's saying he doesn't. He's got a great arm. He's sneaky athletic, which we love out of our quarterbacks. But you just see a lack of pocket presence and leadership, and I just think that it's kind of really been harmful for the Chicago Bears franchise in the last few years.
Cutler went down with an injury right before halftime. He left the game, I think it was the third quarter.
Yeah,
left the game in the third quarter, did not return. So, question. Are the Eagles good, or have they benefited from 2 weak teams?
I'm going to say a little bit of both here. I think that definitely strength of schedule is one of the reasons why they've won both games so convincingly, but they've also looked really good. I mean, if you just look at their defensive line and offensive line, they've just kind of dominated both games at the line of scrimmage, where I think most games are won and lost. So that's a very encouraging thing to see, especially from a team that had a weaker offensive line, and I feel a few years ago their defensive line wasn't all that. But it's definitely encouraging to see. So that's why I'm just so interested to see what happens next week against the Steelers, who are another 2-0 team, definitely one of the better teams in the NFL. So we'll definitely see with that one.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they've had 2 pretty easy games here, but if you look at the Jaguars going to play San Diego, you look at that's a pretty easy game, and they ended up dropping that and getting a loss. So I think it's very important in the NFL to win the games you're supposed to win, and then those games that, might be toss-ups, tough games, you can go in there and, fight hard and try to get a win. But if you lose those games, it won't affect you as much if you win the games that you're supposed to win. So really the Eagles are just, winning the ones they're supposed to win early in the season, and that's a very encouraging sign. So good for the Eagles, and hopefully they'll be able to carry it on. They got a few tougher games coming up.
And now we will discuss a new segment called Fantasy Heroes. As you all know, fantasy football is one of the greatest things ever invented. And my team's off to a hot start. 2-0. No big deal. My fantasy hero for this week is none other. First of all, let me preface by saying my team had a bad week. I only scored, 76 points this week. That's not good, obviously. But the guy I played didn't score a lot either. Shout out Dante. So my fantasy hero of the week is Carolina's place kicker, Graham Gano. He was 4 of 4 for his field goals, 4 of 5 on extra points, and he hit 2 from over 40 yards for a total of 17 fantasy points. Have a day, Graham.
Man, if you only would have made that 5th extra point, would have gotten you to up to that 18. Well, my fantasy hero, Cree here speaking, about my beloved fantasy team, the Brady Boys. And my fantasy hero was Isaiah Crowell of the Cleveland Browns. He just kind of usually sits on my bench as my running back, but this week he put up 20.8 points against the Baltimore Ravens. And that was very surprising to me because usually he's just a very average back. You know, if he gets in the end zone, he'll give me like 9 or 10 points, but not often very more than that. And he broke off that huge 85-yard touchdown run to kind of set the mood for the game, and then ended up with 133 yards and a touchdown along with some receiving yards. So thank you, Isaiah Crowell. You rock.
My fantasy hero of the week. Well, first going to say this team lost. My fantasy team didn't do too well this week. But, coming into this week, I had Zach Ertz as my starting tight end, and he went down. So being the fantasy football genius that I am, I picked up Kyle Rudolph from the waiver wire, who ended up scoring a touchdown. Only had 9 points, but still, it's always nice to see someone that you pick up from the waiver wire get in the end zone, so you can brag about that one a little bit to your friends. So he was my fantasy hero of the week.
Well, I would say another great episode is in the books. I had a good time. Did you guys have a good time?
The only thing on my mind now is these nuggets that we're about to devour. So,
A shockingly low amount of nuggets, too.
200.
If I don't get at least 6 nuggets, someone's going to hear about it tomorrow.
I mean, the only thing we can do is go see. But yes, I had an excellent time recording the show with my 2 buddies. We'll see you next week.
We had fun. We hope you had fun. That'll conclude episode 2 of 4th and Inches.